Hello everyone, I'm just gonna make sure the audio is coming through as intended.
Because of that,
Hello world. I think it sounds pretty decent. We'll play it along right here until then. Alright, we're starting chapter 59 today. I'm going to try to get through to about chapter 65. That's the plan, but we'll play it by ear. If I feel good by then, we can maybe go a little bit longer. If I start to get tired a little bit early, we might have to drop out a little bit early. We'll just see. So let's get started on chapter 59. Upon hearing the fool's question, Audrey did not immediately answer like in the past. Instead, she widened her crystalline eyes and glanced at the hanged man with a scrutinous attitude. Alger subconsciously subdued his body motions. After a few seconds of silence, he said, "I found 2 pages of Emperor Roselle's diary and have memorized their contents." "I have 1 page," Audrey, whose vision was obscured by the fog, said, as though she was removed from the conversation. "Pretty good." Klein did not allow his joy or disappointment to be noticed from his voice. He felt joy as there were 3 full pages, but disappointment also because there were only 3. Their initial search for the diary was definitely easier, for all they had to do was ask through their connections and channels they were already familiar with. Collecting the pages would become more and more difficult as time went on, as it would involve more and more elements. "Shall we express them now?" Audrey inquired with a calm tone. "Yes," Klein simply nodded. He maintained his posture without any change. He had to be cautious in front of a spectator. "Oh, hey, Dr. Z, how you doing? I think it should be a little earlier for you today than yesterday, hopefully. I think it should probably be 11:30, something approximating that. I'm trying to just base it off of yesterday's numbers, but I might be off a little bit." He maintained his posture without any change. He had to be cautious in front of a spectator. As he finished his sentence, pieces of yellowish-brown goatskin parchment and dark red fountain pens appeared in front of Audrey and Alger. Silently, the 2 of them picked up their pens and started to recall the symbols they had seen. They had also infused the emotions of expressing them out. Silently, lines of text appeared on the goatskin. Some of them appeared proper, some delicate, others slanted. In a mere moment, the contents that Alger and Audrey had forcibly memorized were all written. Klein willed the 3 pieces of parchment into his hand. He gave the pages a cursory glance and realized some of the grammar was wrong. There were also missing and wrong words in the content. But experimentation had proved that incorrect sequencing of words to some extent did not affect the overall comprehension of Chinese. Klein was also not afraid of missing words, since he often read web novels with censored asterisks. Cute. 9:30. Okay, that's not too bad at all. My lord, I think, okay, I was live much later than I thought yesterday. Jeez. But, 8th April, I stood at the bow of the Black King and stretched my arms, saying to Grim and Edward, "My fortune is yours for the taking, but you'll have to find it first. I left everything I own at the end of the Fog Sea." They did not understand my humor at all, and even asked if I had other treasures. How boring. You can't be my 4 horsemen of apocalypse if you keep at that. Okay, so there's some of the One Piece references you guys were talking about. That's fair. April 11th, I discovered a nameless island that was not on a safe sea route. There are a good number of extraordinary animals there. No, I prefer calling them extraordinary beings. It feels more impressive that way. Other than that, there are several weird creatures on the island. I believe that if Darwin had transmigrated here, there is no way he could have written his theory of evolution. April 15th, Grimm has suddenly become a little odd. Has he been affected by something? When did Emperor Roselle, who was born in the Intas Kingdom, set off on a voyage? The Fog Sea should be the sea west of the Intas Republic. Yeah, I need to use historical information from the library to cross-reference this. Klein quickly finished reading a page, casting his gaze to the back of the piece of paper. At this point, he no longer hid the fact that he could decipher Emperor Roselle's secret symbols, since this ability fitted the persona and status of the fool. Audrey and Alger did not speak. They waited silently, as if unsurprised by such a revelation. In fact, they even believed that it was only right. October 2nd. They actually wanted me to marry Matilda from They actually wanted me to marry Matilda from the Abel family without even consulting me first. Heavens, I have not even met her. No, I must decline. Even if I were to run away from home and survive on my own and suffer the vicissitudes of life, I must fight against this marriage. Vicissitudes? I presume that means something approximating like dangers or ills of life, something approximating that. It's an interesting word. A change of circumstance or fortune, typically one that is unwelcome. Okay. October 5th. Miss Matilda is really pretty. October 6th. Her personality and her demeanor is just my type. I am starting to look forward to the marriage. My God, within 4 days, such a quick turnaround. Hey, Emperor, where is your integrity? Klein leaned back into his seat, not allowing his emotions to pass through the fog. He realized that Gustave did not write in his diary every day early on. Most of the time, he would only write in the diary when there were certain events that needed to lampoon, record, or to vent his emotions. He shifted his gaze downward. Klein looked at the last sentence of the page. October 9th. They actually called me the son of the steam. I like that very much. Klein was a little disappointed that the information in the first 2 pages was of little value, but he did not turn sullen. He moved the 3rd page to the top. The page had content written on both sides of the paper. May 21st, the Church of the God of Craftsmanship gave me 2 choices. Two beginning sequence pathways. One of them is a Savant. It is a complete sequence pathway they possess. The other is a Mystery Prior, which they obtained from the Moses Ascetic Order, but it lacks the higher sequences. My choice was easy, Savant. The Savant has a complete sequence pathway. Although wielding more information on mysticism can aid my return home, the problem is that if I'm not strong enough, there is a need to acquire external help for transmigration, and I do not know if this external entity would be good, bad, benevolent, or malicious. I cannot control it, and thus it could be very dangerous. In that case, why not strengthen myself and return by relying on my own powers? Thus, the complete sequence was the most important factor in my considerations. May 23rd, I have become a savant. With the power of the potion, I actually recalled all the knowledge I had learned in the past, such as physics, chemistry, etc. I have not only recalled the knowledge, but I understand it more deeply, as well as its possible applications and implications. This is a job specifically tailored for a transmigrator like me from an alternate realm. I will be able to express my advantage to the greatest extent. I have to say that if I were to return in my present state to the 3rd year of high school, I would definitely become a top scholar. Well, my God, that is such a Asian kid thing to say. Like, oh yeah, even after going back, after being in a different world, I could now become a good student, so my parents wouldn't be disappointed. If I could further specialize in an area, it wouldn't be too hard for me to become a scientist. May 26th. I am enjoying my status as a savant. Something odd worth mentioning. When I address myself as a savant, doing things that are in line with this role, the murmurings that drive me crazy become considerably softer. I have also been able to control my occasional temper outbursts. I have also recalled the matter regarding the diary. Is this the acting that the mysterious Mr. Zeratul mentioned? This could be a key in resolving the side effects posed by the potions. As Klein read the diary page, he had a deep realization there was a fundamental difference between how he and Emperor Roselle did things. For me, for example, regarding the matter of returning home, Klein considered grasping in-depth knowledge of mysticism to avoid risks and accomplish his goal, while Emperor Roselle preferred to rely on himself and face the risks. I have to say, I envy people like that sometimes. Perhaps everyone yearns for something they do not possess. Of course, I have also to consider strengthening myself. Both of these are important, Klein thought, sighing a little. The description provided by Emperor Roselle about acting instilled Klein with confidence that the conclusion he made about acting yesterday was more or less correct. He put the three diary pages down, looked up at Justice and Hanged Man. He smiled and said, "My apologies, I was too absorbed in reading them." Audrey calmed the envy in her heart and smiled faintly. "I can understand. I hope to one day be able to exchange information about the diary's contents." That will require a price," Klein smiled and glanced at Justice, then swept his gaze towards the silent Hanged Man. Audrey put her palms together and placed them in front of her. "Mr. Fool, Mr. Hanged Man, I have 3 questions to ask. If you think that the answers warrant a high price, tell me what you want. I will try my best to seek it." "No problem," Alger answered. Klein nodded and leaned back further, making himself comfortable. Audrey thought for a few seconds and said, "The first question is, what does acting really mean? I realize that the remnant psyche in the potion has minute effects on me. Is that because I've been acting as a spectator all this while?" Alger did not speak. Instead, he looked at the fool as though waiting for him to give them an answer. Klein rubbed his fingers on the edge of the table and said in a relaxed tone, "Let me explain this with an analogy. Imagine the core powers of your potion are a tightly guarded castle. The remnants of the psyche that can cause a backlash resides within that castle. Our goal is to get rid of it and become the true master of the castle. There are 2 ways we can do that. The first is to forcefully invade the castle. There is no guarantee that this will work, and you will most definitely injure yourself unless you can suppress it with absolute power. But of course, we're not required to do that. The second way is to get the owner of the castle to extend an invitation. The invitation allows us to slide through the scrutiny of the guards and infiltrate the castle. We can then easily finish off the enemies, but the problem lies in the fact that this invitation specifies the facial features and characteristics of the guests. Thus, we have to disguise ourselves and act as the guests. Do you understand?" Alger immediately asked, as if he had anticipated this reply. "Then the aforementioned invitation is the name of the potion sequence." "That's right," Klein said with great affirmation. Audrey froze for a moment, having the sudden feeling that she completely understood what acting meant. She immediately exited her spectator state due to her excitement. She praised in joy. "What an exceptional method. I think it fits your title. Its style is very compatible with the Fool. I would never have believed that acting would have such an effect. Luckily, I've been acting as a spectator for the past few days." She paused for a moment before saying, "I think that this is a very valuable answer. My heart is not at ease accepting it for nothing. Mr. Fool, what do you need in exchange? Of course, I still remember that I owe you a page of Emperor Roselle's diary." More pages of Roselle's diary. Or, Klein paused for a moment, he wanted to get information about the sequence regarding the seer, but felt that such a low-level question would ruin the mystical image of the fool. Thus, he chose to give up on it and planned to ask them discreetly some other day. "I just advanced recently and have yet to digest the seer potion." He consoled himself and added on without expression, "Anything regarding the Antigonus family, even if I'm already aware of them myself." Alder remained silent for a few seconds. He looked at the top of the long bronze table for a moment before slowly opening his mouth. Mr. Fool, I believe I can pay you back immediately for the information you just requested just now." Chapter 60. Are you just playing a game, or are you just reading along, Dr. Z? Just curious. Chapter 60. Second Blasphemy Slate. "No problem." Klein tried to maintain his unchanging deep tone. He rested his left elbow on the armrest of his chair and supported his forehead slightly with his fingers, posing as though he was listening calmly. Alder deliberated over his words and said, "The Antigonus family is an ancient family. Their history can be traced back to the Cataclysm epoch before the Fourth Epoch and is related to the Second Blasphemy Slate." "The Second Blasphemy Slate? There's a second? How many are there?" Klein's pupil shrank and he nearly changed his posture. According to what the Hanged Man and the Justice have said previously, the Blasphemy Slate contained the profound mysteries of the 22 Paths of the Divine. There are 2 of such important items, or even more? 22 Paths of the Divine, sequences and pathways. Could these 2 nouns mean the same thing? Every complete sequence pathway leads straight to the throne of the divine. At that instant, the description of the second blasphemy slate gave Klein numerous thoughts. He believed that if not for the thick grayish-white fog concealing him, his emotional reaction would probably have been discovered by Miss Spectator. As for the words Cataclysm Epoch, he was no stranger to that term as a historian. It was the name of the third epoch. After his recent revision, Klein even knew that the third epoch was separated into 2 eras, the Glorious Era and the Cataclysm Era. Well, one of those sounds a lot better than the other, I suppose. A second blasphemy slate, Audrey plainly revealed her ignorance on the matter. Before she calmed her emotions, she returned to her spectator state. Nice question, Klein secretly cheered. It was a question inconvenient for him to ask as the fool. Alder stole a glance at the fool and noticed that his posture remained the same, nor did he make a sound. Hence, he thought and answered, the first blasphemy slate appeared in the Dark Epoch, which is the second epoch where we humans struggle to survive under the protection of the gods. The second blasphemy slate appeared at the end of the third epoch. It could even be said that its appearance symbolized the end of the Cataclysm epoch. The contents of the 2 blasphemy slate is kept secret by the 7 major churches. I only know bits and pieces of it. I only know that they involve the pathways to godhood, but I'm not sure what of the differences between them. So I assume the slates are sort of like the stone tablets that they say like Moses brought down or whatever. Like I presume they're like literal slates, like containing some sort of knowledge or words or whatever from gods or angels or something approximating that. I don't know. Was the blasphemy slate that Emperor Roselle saw the first or the second? Audrey asked curiously. Upon hearing that, Klein recalled what Alger said about the potions' names during the first gathering. He said that the names of the potions were derived from the blasphemy slate. Similarly, Captain had also mentioned that the formation and completion of the potion system was thanks to the birth of the blasphemy slate. That information confirms that the pathways to godhood are the sequence pathway. Klein answered his question silently, then Alger simply replied, the second one. Okay, well, glad to know I'm at least somewhere on the right page. There's a part of me that's like concerned that I'm like thinking about it and then I'm just like thinking about it completely wrong or whatever, and I'm just getting lost here, but glad to know I'm somewhere where I should be. The glint in Audrey's eyes diminished as she returned to her spectator state. She did not continue asking questions. Instead, all she did was focus her gaze on the hanged man. It was obvious that her scrutiny made Alger uncomfortable, but he suppressed the emotions within him. He lowered his voice and continued. During the Solomon dynasty in the Fourth Epoch, although the Antigonus family was considered an illustrious part of the aristocracy, they didn't do anything very memorable until they supported the establishment of the Tudor Empire. They then stood right in the middle of the stage of the northern continent. In that period, Antigonus, Ammon, Abraham, Jacob, and others were illustrious names of the human kingdom. These are all names from the Bible. Interesting. Abraham. I think these are all... I don't know about this one in particular. These three, I think, are from the first... part, but I don't. I feel like Jacob was in there. I don't know. However, after the War of the Four Sovereigns, the Blood Emperor from the Tudor Empire perished. They fell from the top of their pedestal and are now hunted by the seven gods. I'm not sure about the actual process, but I do know that the Antigonus family was destroyed at the hands of the Church of the Evernight Goddess. Mr. Fool, if you'd like to know more, I'm afraid that you can only obtain the information from the Church of the Evernight Goddess, or from the few ancient secret organizations. You know which few I'm referring to. I don't. Klein nodded while feeling bitter inside. Okay. This is what I feel like when one of my professors says like, okay, so we all know this part, and part of me is dying inside as I don't think I've ever heard that before. The secret order is one. Captain and Old Neil mentioned the Moses Ascetic Order. I wonder if the psychology alchemists count. While he mentally checked off the candidates, Alger provided him with the last bit of information. I similarly have no idea which sequence pathways the Antigonus family held. There are only two adjectives that appear repeatedly in the descriptions, and those are strange and terrifying. Okay, well, that's a good way to be remembered. Good Lord. Strange and terrifying, thinking back to the notebook, the original Klein and his classmates, and what happened to Ray Bieber's mother. It really is aptly worded. Klein continuously rapped the edge of the long table with the tip of his fingers. Then he slowly began to speak. Very well. I am satisfied with this payment. The reason he continuously rapped the long table with his fingers was to emphasize the action, to make Justice and the hanged man believe that he had a habit of rapping in order to conceal the fact that the motion was used to activate and deactivate his spirit vision. "It's my pleasure." Alger did not say anything else. Audrey took a look at the hanged man and then the fool. She smiled faintly and said, "Then I shall ask the second question. What is the name of the subsequent potion for Spectator? Where can I find the clues?" I'd also like to ask so straightforwardly, but different choices lead to different difficulties. Klein did not speak, but cast his gaze towards the hanged man. Alger remained silent for a few seconds before saying, "I'll answer the question for free because I led you on this pathway." Well, that's nice. The subsequent potion for Spectator is sequence number 8, Telepathic. The ancient name of sequence 7 is Psychianalyst, but is called the Psychiatrist now. This is what I found from a member of the Psychology Alchemists. I think they should have quite a number of potion formulas for this pathway. Psychology Analyst, Spirit Medium, Dali was rather approving of this theory, but Captain thought of them as crazy and evil. Klein listened while in deep thought. Good Lord. "Do you know the whereabouts of that particular Psychology Alchemists member?" asked Audrey with her eyes beaming with joy. Be it telepathic or psychiatrist, both names appeal to her aesthetics. Good Lord. Alger gave a rare laugh. "I do. He immersed himself in the seas around Sonia Island. I sank him with my own hands."